Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Evening Nine Golf Podcast. Today is Sunday, February 22nd. We're wrapping up the Genesis Invitational. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. It feels good to be back after a little technical difficulties on Thursday. It's good to be back. Had to miss the last episode, so really good to be back. Great weekend, phenomenal day of sports again. Obviously had Team USA. Congratulations on getting gold. You had Jack Hughes game winner. That had me fired up. That was probably the most excited I've been watching a hockey game in a long time. And then you finish it off with another great Sunday on tour. So yeah, it's been a great weekend.
Yeah, nothing like a little coffee hockey to start off your day.
Uh, it got me feeling patriotic. So
Yeah. Yeah, good week for sports. We got a lot to break down regarding the Genesis Invitational. We did have some technical difficulties this past week, so we couldn't discuss our picks, but we do have our picks and they are settled now. And I'm excited to get into those and see how the week wrapped up.
yeah, it was another tough day sledding for definitely for me, a little bit for you after that hot week last week. But we'll definitely get into that. I did outscore my picks last week, so that was I'm trending in the right directions, but in the right direction, but still a rough, kind of a weird leaderboard. The people who were kind of made for this course didn't do nearly as well as I thought. But congrats to Jacob Bridgman and not a really young guy on top of the leaderboard, so it's good to see.
Yeah, congrats to Jacob Bridgman. Obviously, the big storyline of the week, getting his first tour win at a pretty big place, pretty big stage. So good for him. Another big storyline is the continued Scotty drama, especially on Thursdays. I'm excited to see what you have to say about that. But yeah, another good week on tour. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Basically, the first thing I have, obviously, Jacob Bridgman. Congrats to him. I don't want to say super unexpected guy. He wasn't super big before this year. I know he did make the tour championship last year, but other than that, he was kind of wasn't the biggest name. So it is kind of cool to see another guy who's been really hot, really good coming into early this season. So he gets his first win on tour. Congrats to him. Really driven by same thing as last week. Just a unreal Saturday. The stat line, maybe I've one of the best stat lines I've heard in a while. His strokes gained on approach shots on Saturday was plus 5.93. So he was gaining almost 6 shots on Saturday on approach shots. That's unreal. I mean, this is Riv's a
Yeah.
course where if you can, ball strikers are going to prevail, and that definitely held true. I mean, he was really good for the week as well. I mean, he was still 1.44. He was gaining, about a stroke and a half on the field. But I mean, Saturday was unreal. If you watched it, it was like every shot was just, he was throwing darts all day. And it was honestly like kind of one of those things, especially when it's not a huge name and you're like, he can't keep this up. And
Right.
he kept it up, built that cushion enough that he didn't have to have the best. He was actually 1 over today. So, yeah, congrats to him. Phenomenal Saturday. One of the best ball striking days you'll see out there. So, yeah, congrats to him.
Yeah, you had Rory and Kurt Kitayama making a late push, a
Mhm.
little bit closer than we probably expected there at the end, but he built himself enough of a cushion that he could ride on in easy on 18. It's kind of interesting, you got a guy as young as Bridgman paired up with Rory going into
Mhm.
the final round on Sunday. That almost was a headline in itself. Rory said before the round that he would kind of assume Bridgman's going to shoot around even par for the day, and so Rory's just going to try and go out and post a number
Mhm.
to beat that. But even finishing the day at 1 over for Bridgman, I think, is a success. Obviously, he got the win, but he didn't absolutely crumble. Especially last week after Pebble Beach, he did. He was in the lead at one point at Pebble Beach on the
Yeah.
back nine, and so super cool for him to get the job done this week with that bigger cushion that he had this time.
Yeah, absolutely. He spoke a little bit, I believe, after his round on Saturday, and said last year in the playoffs he did get to play with Rory a couple times, and he said that was really big. That really helped him because when you're a young guy, you're not used to having that many people watching you and having one of the best players of this generation of all time, really, and certainly in the field. You're not really used to playing with that big of guys. So having that experience kind of he had those pressure moments just in front of that big crowd, and so he said that really helped him coming in today. And yeah, like you said, he didn't. It's not like he went out and shot a 65 again today, but he did what he needed to do. He did majority of the work on Saturday, so he all he had to do is I don't want to say he had to coast, but he just had to not mess it up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. He didn't let the pressure get to him. Even on 18, he had it was like a 5.5 footer, which for these guys is nothing. But also, when that's to win the tournament, and you have, especially on 18 at Riv, you have that amphitheater. It's a lot of pressure. So, yeah, it's really big for him. I expect pretty big things of him coming forward. Young guy, already has a really good season and really big finish there. So yeah, and Rory did. He alluded to kind of to before his round. Whenever there's a player playing that hot, there's not much you can do. So yeah, he kind of knew that basically his only chance to win was if Bridgman crumbled, and he didn't. He handled the pressure really well, and obviously came out with the win. So
Yeah. Yeah, you alluded to the gallery on 18, which is a
mm,
super cool part of the course. What otherwise, what I kind of think of as a lackluster course, and we'll get into the course.
yeah,
So I'm excited to talk about that. But another big name in regards to scoring, obviously, is Scotty,
mm,
and the trend continues with the Thursday poor rounds, and this just keeps getting worse and worse. At first at the Waste Management, it was
mm,
enough for him to come back at Pebble Beach. He finished even on Thursday, but now at the
mm.
Genesis,
Yeah, that
he was
was.
he was 5 over at the end of Thursday. I think 3 over at the end of his first round.
Mhm.
Uh, but what is going on with him, man? What do you have to
Yeah,
say?
I have no idea. I mean, he was he really lucked out with that with the weather delay because if he would have played an entire round on Thursday, I don't think he would have made the cut. I mean, he was 5 over through 10 holes, and then he came back and he was 2 under in the last 7 holes or 8 holes. My bad, in the last 8 holes on really 7 and 1 shot because he just had the putt on 12. That was the only shot he took on 12 on Friday. So that he really lucked out with that. I think he would have missed the cut because he was playing so unbelievably poorly on Friday. We were joking that when we had that tee time that got canceled that we were going to do a Breaking Scotty challenge, and
Yeah.
it is mind blowing. I'm thinking that he's honestly just kind of tired of the West Coast. I really don't know. It's obviously very mental because he's he's the best player in the world. He's the best player we've seen in a long time. So it's definitely a little bit mental. He has it in him, but I really don't know. I kind of that. I feel like everyone feels like the expectation moving forward is that he's going to get over this. And in the Florida swing, I expect him to come out hot on Thursdays, but you don't know at this point. I expected him to kind of put those slow starts behind him, so you really don't know at this point. I hope he starts picking it up and say the same thing I said last week. Whenever he does have a good first round, he's going to at least be right there. He's going to be in one of the final pairings. He's got to put a Thursday together. I don't know.
Yeah, and what's equally as mind-boggling is for how consistently bad it's been on Thursdays, the weekends are consistently incredible. He
Yeah.
he just missed that top 10 spot to
Mm.
finish the tournament, but compared to the rest of the field, his weekends have
Oh
continued to be
yeah.
incredible. And so
Mm.
that's a trend just as much as his Thursday rounds are.
Yeah.
Also for anyone who says that Scotty is a boring player to watch, I want you to watch him when he's having a bad round, and he just has that face of
Yeah.
shock. It's like he's so good and he believes in his game so much that he's just mystified that he could be playing bad, and it's very comical to see.
It is. One thing that I think is really interesting about Scotty is I think last season or the season before, it was Ted Scott, his caddy, said Scotty used to be a hothead. Like when he was young, when he was in college, when he was in Corn Ferry, and then his first couple of seasons on tour, he was a hothead. He would slam clubs, he would throw clubs, and basically Ted Scott, Scotty was looking for a caddy, and Ted Scott said, "I'll work with you. You have so much potential. But you gotta get your emotions under control." So now he's like this very cool. Even when he's playing bad, he obviously has that disappointed look on his face, but he hits good shots. He hit bad shots. Seems like he always has the same facial expression, same emotions. But he didn't used to be like that. That was a
Yeah,
kind of a condition that Ted Scott would only work with him with if he got those under control. So that's really interesting. And yeah, it is kind of funny that when to see him when he's playing poorly, and he does have kind of a mystified look. Sometimes you'll see him, slam a club, uh, but yeah, it's shocking. Another thing you said that he missed that top 10. That was the first top 10 he's missed in 19 events. So he had an 18 event top 10 streak going, which is outrageous. Tiger's highest was only 8, which is a phenomenal stat. So yeah, it just shows how impressive that is. And still, he was one stroke off the top 10. I will say about this week, even if he would have had a 67, 66, I don't know if he would have won. Maybe he would, Bridgman would have felt his footsteps a little more, but Brisbane just had a really good week. I'm not sure if he would have won, but he would have been right there regardless.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's good stuff. And like we said last week, I guess we just wait and see what
Mm-hmm.
this coming Thursday holds because everyone's going to be watching him. I don't think he
Yeah.
really is going to feel pressure. All eyes are going to be on his Thursday round. That's not going to mean much to him. He's going to want to still do whatever it takes to win the tournament. But I'm
I'm
excited to
not.
see how that goes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to play this because this is a cognizant, right?
That's true. I believe so.
I don't
Yes.
think he's going to play. I know I didn't collect this information myself, but one of the reporters basically said he's not a big fan of playing a bunch of tournaments in a row. And I mean, he's played what 4 or 5 events in a row now. And so I'm thinking maybe he was just getting mentally tired, and then it was taking like a bad round to kind of wake up. But I'd be shocked if he played this weekend. Maybe he will. I don't know. The field should be out, so I could be wrong. But I'm not sure if he'll play. To me, it's almost like he kind of needs the break before he heads to Florida because
Yeah.
it's a long swing. You have you go to Bay Hill after the Cognizant, and then it's the Players, and then you're going the Valspar, and then pretty soon you're going to be headed to Augusta. So I'd be shocked if he played, but to me it's kind of like he needs that break. But we'll see. I mean, I hope he does, and yeah, I like you said, I'd imagine he'd kind of come out firing, but at this point you never know. I've said that the last couple of weeks, so.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's that's a lot of talk on a guy who finished T12, but that's the world number one effect, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're down weeks, if you're weeks that you've just played terrible, is T12 at a signature event, you're doing something right. So,
hmm
I mean,
hmm
props to him. But let's get away from Scotty a little bit. I feel like he gets a lot of attention for being in the middle of the field. But let's get some other guys who also had phenomenal finishes. Another really young guy that personally I love. I didn't think he was going to have much of a breakout season, but maybe we'll be wrong. I really hope he does. How about Aldrich Potgieter? You know, the longest hitter on tour. Really young guy. He's like 22 years old, 23 years old, South African. So, I mean, he can really move it. Great finish, fifth at a
hmm
signature event for, like I said, 22, 23-year old. Um, great finish for him. Great to see him. And then a guy that, Mr. Hyder here has been hating on a little bit. Jordan Spieth proves Hyder wrong again, and that he is back, tied for 12, 11 under right there with Scotty. So a couple other interesting finishes, but yeah, I mean, like I said, is this kind of the new norm for Jordan Spieth, or do you think these are kind of fluke? He's been having a good California swing.
Yeah, I don't know if we could call it the norm, but good for him. I'm happy for him. Shout out Tim Echo, both your guys, Jordan Spieth and Ludwig Oberg had a good week, so we're on the come up. You're gonna have this when you have the stacked signature field, the whole leaderboard. It feels like it's
Hmm.
full of big names, and that's because it is.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be talking about whoever finishes top five, top 10, because there's only big names in the field, which is all the more reason why Pot Geeter, great weekend for him. Bridgman, great tournament for him. Good for them. But yeah, good for Spieth. Happy for him. Happy for Tim. Let me ask you
Especially.
this: who would you rather have this year? Who do you see having a better career in general? Jacob Bridgman or Ryo Hisatsune? Two guys I see pretty much in the exact same light right now to start 2026.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, really, two really young guys. Ryo Hisatsuni is, I already forget how old he is. What is he, 24? Really young guy. Or is he 22? Really young guy. Jacob Bridgman, 26, really young guy. The thing is with these guys, and it's kind of the same thing going back to Jordan Spieth, is we see, maybe they have a really good swing and they're playing really good golf, and you want to say, are they back? We want to kind of overreact a little bit. Golf is such a long sport. Your career is not like any other. It's not like another sport where the average guy is playing 5, 6 years. I mean, probably the average guy on tour is probably only on tour for a couple years because it's hard to be on there. But the average career is, for a guy who's especially long, it's not unusual to see a guy on tour for 20 years. And the season's so long. There's so many events, so many rounds, you're traveling all over. So we see these hot streaks, So for Jordan Spieth, some people might say, "Oh, Jordan Spieth's back. He's going to have a phenomenal year." And maybe he just had a hot swing. So it's really hard, especially for these young guys who we haven't seen. They don't have really a track record. We didn't really know much before this year. Bridgman had a good season last year. He made the Tour Championship, but he still wasn't a guy that we were. It was really on anybody's radar that we're like, "Hey, this guy's a major competitor." So it's really hard to judge both these guys because, like I said, you don't know much about them, and it's maybe they're just hot right now. But that being said, if I had to take a guess, I am going to go with Bridgman just because, like I said, he had a good season last year where Rio were just really just kind of guessing. He had a good couple of weeks. Maybe that's all it is. But Bridgman, good season last year, was in the Tour Championship, already exempt to, I know the Masters, pretty much every major, right? If you make the Tour Championship, he's going to be in every major already. So plus with the win, he's going to be in every major. So a guy who he's been on tour a little bit, he's playing those Tour Championships. I'd imagine he's going to have a pretty bright future, and he's at least going to be a guy that we know going forward. So who knows? But like I said, it's really hard to judge those.
Hmm. Yeah, Chris Gotterup is another one that's
Yeah,
really young, but he strung together a good finish to 25, beginning to
yeah,
26. So I think he's probably a little bit higher of a profile than those two, but super excited to
yeah,
see where these young guys take off to. Podgeeter, I'd love to see more of him this year if he
yeah.
can stay hot.
Yeah, I'm a big Pot Gear guy. I've been whenever we won the Rocket last year, and then he had, it might have been the Mexico Open, and he was so close. He lost in the playoff. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of his super young guy, but it is really exciting to see these guys. It's like, hey, in 5 to 10 years, maybe these are the guys that we're looking at as world number one, two, three, whatnot. So it was a really exciting time.
never
I'm
know.
not saying right now, but I'm saying in years
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah, someone had the same conversation about Scotty 5 years ago.
Exactly. It's he won the whenever he won his first event at um, Scottsdale. It was kind of the same thing. Like, hey, is this guy going to be for real? And then a couple months later, he went to the Masters. So
Yeah.
it was a little more real. It was a little more quick for him. But again, who knows? Maybe Jacob Bridgman wins the Masters. Maybe Chris Goddard wins a major. You never know. It's a game where it's really the hot hand, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see these young guys in the mix, and making a name, not pushing out these older guys, but kind of paving a new way for the names that these kids are looking up to and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, good breakdown, good analysis of those guys. In regards to Riviera Country Club, do you have any comments, any reactions to the tournament? Obviously, it was a very soggy Thursday, and that impacts the way the course is meant to be played. There were some interviews that sounds like they were a little blown out of proportion based on what some of the guys said about the course. But what are your thoughts on Riviera?
Yeah, really shocking conditions because you're in LA. You don't really expect there to be 50-degree weather pretty much the whole week, but that's where we that's where we were, really soggy, like you said, big rain delay on Thursday. But basically, the whole time I was watching this, I was thinking this is basically the opposite of Pebble Beach from a viewing standpoint. It is Pebble Beach is this gorgeous course, the most scenic golf course maybe in the world, greatest meeting of land and sea on the planet. And but it's these players light it up. And when we're thinking about the U.S. Open there next year, we're like, I don't know how they're going to make it much harder. It might be one of those U.S. Opens where the winner's at 21 under. Whereas Riviera, it's almost like the opposite, where it's not the most scenic course. There are some. I'm sure if you go in person, it's beautiful. It's pure, kind of like Oakmont. When you watch Oakmont on TV, you're not blown away because it's in the middle of a huge field. I mean, you were there. I was there. It's just the middle of a field, basically. But you go in person, it's beautiful just because of how pure it is and how you can just see the whole property and whatnot. Riviera, not the most scenic golf course in the world at all. But I think when the U.S. Open comes in, 2028, 2029, whenever it is, whenever they're here, I think it's going to be a great U.S. Open because, like I said, it's not the most scenic, but they can make it really tough with the rough. It's going to be much firmer. You know that because this was
Mm-hmm.
about as soggy as it get, and it was 18 under. So it'll be much firmer, especially in June, July, June. Yeah, June. My bad. Especially in June, it'll be much firmer. I don't know if it'll play much longer, but it's gonna be a better test, I think. And then, like you said, 18 is another great finishing hole with that natural amphitheater, and it's a tough hole too. So it's not like a hole at Pebble where you know if you're if you're even with the leader and the leader's on 18, you probably lost. It's not like that at all. So that was kind of my initial reaction. Obviously, really easy conditions, but it's a great layout, even though it's not the most scenic. And I think the U.S. Open, when it does get there, is going to be a great and tough test.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was in store for hosting a U.S. Open in the near future. That's
Yeah,
another tour stop that is going to be hosting a major, which hasn't been the public favorite recently. But we'll look forward to that. You pulling it up on there?
yeah. I just had to fact check myself real quick. They
Yeah, but I think some of the controversy around the course this week is just that they host it in February in general when it's tends to be a rainy season, like we saw last week at Pebble. Now we're just
yeah.
down the road at Riv. Um, Players are talking about how it plays completely different in July, how they would love to come
Mhm,
back in July, and I'm just hearing some different conversations about how maybe this should be a stop come
mhm.
middle of the summer.
Yeah.
But the course itself, I don't know if I love it.
Mhm,
Heard the word baranga a lot this week, which is cool, but it's just high grass at the end of the day. Not a big fan of seeing tons of houses elevated above the
mhm,
holes, because since it's not on the ocean like Pebble, it's in the Pacific Palisades. It's you've got houses surrounding the whole property, and
mhm.
so just not my favorite tournament to watch.
Yeah.
It brought good competition. Well, going into the day, it wasn't, but overall, the tournament was a good competition. I think the best guy won. Um, But yeah, do you like the course itself? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, real quick, I did fact check myself. 2031 is when the U.S. Open. So we
Oh,
got a while. 2031 U.S. Opens at Riv. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's not the most visually stunning course by any means. It's actually quite dull. I think I kind of reference Oakmont. I think Oakmont, even on TV, is way more scenic just because it's very it's very links and it's just the layouts are gorgeous. You know, the bunkering is phenomenal. Where Riviera, I agree. I think it's really just I think it's a golf course that they just kind of put out there, and I don't know, they just made a golf course. If that makes sense, that's the best way I can describe it. Kind of like Quail Hollow. However, I do think it is very. I think it's designed very well. You know, my only gripe that I really have with it, I don't even know this word, but my only issue I have with it is sorry. My only issue I have with it is one is a a joke of a par five. That is the worst par five in golf. I mean, you couldn't have come up with any other design than just a straightaway 475 yard par five with a super elevated tee in a split in a cut off fairway. I guess you know what I mean. It's just it's ridiculous. It was playing easier than a good bit of the par fours. It's shorter than some of the par four. I don't like it.
yeah.
I know it should be a par four. Whenever the U.S. Open goes around 2031, it's going to be a par four. It's ridiculous. There were like 10 eagles there today, so that's my one issue with it. That's a horrible hole. It should be a par four. But other than that, I think it's designed really well. You know, you have six with the bunker in the middle of the hole. That's unique. You know, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, it's unique. You know, you don't see it anywhere else. You have what is it? Well, what's the hole with the split fairway? Oh my gosh, was it 12, 13?
7, 8.
Oh my bad. But yeah, you have seven with the split fairway. Um, so I mean, there's that's not the most unique thing we've seen. You know, Valhalla also has it, and some other courses have split fairways, but still a cool feature. So I think it's designed well. It's just like you said, it's not the most scenic, and number one is the biggest joke of a par five I think I've ever seen in my life. So
Yeah, I hate to see a tee shot elevated that much, and then most guys aren't hitting driver. You know, if you're
yeah,
gonna elevate it that much, just let the bombs eat off the tee. But most guys were laying back to 3 wood because of that ravine that goes through the fairway around 350 yards. Hole 10 is another notable one. It's a drivable par four, but none of the guys are going for the green, which is very frustrating. At least when I watched, I'm sure there's plenty who gave it a run, but the times when I was tuned in, I didn't see a single player actually aim at the flag at the green. They all bailed out left or short, and so
yeah,
like the holes are designed fantastically. There's great scoring opportunities, but these guys analyze it so much that you don't get much variation as far as what the best play is. You don't get very much variation as to where their shots end up. You're either making a four, a three, a five every time.
yeah. I, I did see so early in the week there were a bunch of guys going for it on 10, and it seemed like they
Okay.
all missed left. Which with driver, if you miss left, a lot of people were actually making bogey from over there, even though they were pin high, maybe a little short of pin high, but they were making bogey because they were getting under the trees over there. But it seemed like the pin position was kind of excuse me. I feel like the pin position was a little backwards. It was like really tucked back on 10 today, which is kind of backwards. I feel like it should be in a very gettable spot on
Yeah.
Sunday, just because it kind of encourages you to hit driver and really go at it. Where if it's tucked away, it's like why would I why in the world would I go for it? I like why, there's no point, and then it takes pretty much all the trouble out of it. And everyone was making either a three or a four. So I agree there were some holes that one was one of them. Again, I'm not a fan of one as a par five, but like you said, nobody was making a six there. Nobody. Everyone was making three, four, five. So there are a lot of holes that yeah people were just analyzing it too much and whatnot. But yeah, I think a big part of that though is was the conditions and um, like you said earlier, I think if they went back in July, it would be great because it would be super firm and it would be a much tougher test. So
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's great. Do we want to get into our picks of the week? You
yeah,
made a mention
absolutely.
to open up our show, and let's break down our picks. Let's maybe start by saying what our picks were because we weren't able to film during the week. Maybe we can quickly run through the picks and then give a bit of a overview now that we know how they finished.
Yeah, absolutely. I can go first. There's
Yeah.
one common trend in my picks, and that was all. I just wanted to basically get the best ball strikers. Like I said, they Riviera is a course that rewards ball strikers, not even necessarily accuracy off the tee, but if you saw there are a lot of pretty long holes, a lot of mid and long irons into these greens. So I basically just wanted to go with the best ball strikers I could. So my top 20 pick, I went with Siwoo Kim. He, I mean, he had a hot hand. Didn't have the greatest week, but had a really hot hand. Great ball striker. I know he's a guy you really like, so you might have been a little disappointed to see him off the board. And for my top 10, I went Colin Morikawa. Same thing, super hot. Obviously, coming off the win. Uh, Great ball striker, one of the best in the game, and he's an LA kid, so playing with the home field advantage. Then tied for, or then sorry, top five, I went Hideki Matsuyama. Same thing, hot ball striker. It's really all I could ask for. And then my win, not to be boring, but I did go with Scotty. I really thought he was going to turn the tables this week. I thought he was going to get off to a hot start. I was very wrong. Um, but I thought for sure that he was done with these slow starts and he was going to get off to a hot start. And I thought Riv was a really good course for him, even though he hasn't had a ton of success there. But yeah, I did get 1 point with Morikawa. He did get a or sorry, I got 3 points with Morikawa. Got a top 10. He was tied for seventh. And yeah, everyone else missed. Siwoo Kim was tied for 37th, so did not get any points on that. Hideki was tied for 28th, didn't get any points on that. And Scotty was obviously tied for 12th, didn't get any points on that. So disappointing, but I mean, you know how it is. You can't predict how someone's feeling. You can't predict what someone thinks in their head, and you really can't predict how confident and how hot someone's going to be moving forward. So I feel like my logic was in the right spot. It's just my guys didn't come to play. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let me run through mine, beginning with top 20. Went with Mav McNeely. Um, Top 20, I think, is a good finish, but you can fly under the radar and still get a top 20. And so I think that's what he's done this year. So I just went with a guy who's had a decent start to his year. Coming in at top 10, I had Rory. Felt pretty confident with this one, even though it was at plus odds for him to get a top 10. Felt pretty confident, and we saw that it worked out. Top five, I went with Patrick Cantley. My biggest reasoning for this was kind of have a classy old style tournament to go with a classy old style player. So it just seems to fit him well. Um, I know he didn't end up finishing top five, but I think he has previously done well in this tournament. I could be wrong, but kind of kind of the name, the face fits the tournament. At least that's what I thought going in. Winner, I chose Ludwig Oberg to repeat after his win at the Genesis in 2025. Bit of a oh, how do you say it? Not a popular pick, probably because last year was at Torrey Pines during the California wildfires. So it's not like people were necessarily expecting him to repeat, but I just kind of went with the vibes. Finished his week up well at Pebble last week, so I thought might come out here and put up a number. But ultimately, I think obviously Rory finished well. He hit that for me, but remind me where some of those other guys finished. I don't think any of them got points.
Maverick McNeely got cut, so or missed the cut. I don't know why I said got cut. We're not on a team. So first missed cut of the season. That was the only, obviously last week we didn't have a cut. Rory, I was tied two. Patrick Cantlay T37, so he missed out, and Ludwig Oberg was T20, so he also missed out. So we did tie this week. We both got our top 10 picks. So yeah, so it was a decent week. This is how I kind of imagine a lot of the weeks will go. Like, I 8 points from you last week was a phenomenal week. You were either hit or were really close on every single one of them. So I can't imagine that's going to be too common. Like I said before, it's just really hard to pick who's going to have the hot hand going forward. Have you ever heard of the hot hand fallacy? But basically, everyone falls into it. You think someone's doing really well, so they're going to continue to do really well, and sometimes they don't. So, um,
Yep.
but yeah.
So what does that update our standings to score wise for the year so
So it'll
far?
be it's 11 for you now. I'll make the graphic and everything like that, but yeah,
Gotcha.
still a lot of work to go. Maybe we gotta get to some of these cognizant classics, Puerto Rico Opens. Maybe Neil Shipley's gotta bail me out, gotta win, get the 5 points on the board.
Yeah, this is really a time where if you know a guy who's gonna do
Yeah.
well, it's your time to really show your knowledge.
It is really exciting to, like we discussed last time, to kind of pay attention to these smaller events, names that we probably heard of, but we don't know too well. We aren't too familiar with. We haven't watched them too much. So it is really exciting to pay attention and really watch these guys and get to know some of these guys. So I am excited. Now, the cognizant, there are still going to be some of the bigger names just to get ready for this Florida swing, but I'd imagine there's going to be some guys taking some breaks. I'll have to look at the field whenever we get off. Um, but yeah, it is exciting to kind of watch some of these lesser known guys. Maybe see the next Chris Goddard, Jacob Bridgman, Rio Hisatsuni, next guy who's going to be making a name on tour next year. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like it. We'll talk more about the Cognizant this coming week when we check back in before the tournament. Any other thoughts before we wrap up today's episode?
no, I do just have I guess I do have a couple of notes. Just I one big question I did say earlier. Well, we're supposed to have our tea time on Friday, right? Yeah, Friday, and it was raining and it was unbelievably windy in the morning, so the course was closed. But we both did get out on Saturday. I want you to pick the over under of what I shot on nine. I will say I was at Moon Golf Club in Moon, Pennsylvania. It is one of the easiest golf courses you will play. Conditions were fair. It wasn't too cold. Greens were soft and slow, and it was my first outdoor round of the year. But pretty much every hole there's not a par five over 500 yards. There is not a par three over 175 yards. There's a couple drivable par fours, and if not, you have flip wedges. So that's the information you get. What do you think? What's your over under? What do you think I shot on nine at Moon Golf
Over
Club?
under six over par. I don't know if that'd be 41, 42, whatever six over par is. I think that's the line, and I think you went one under. I think you went one under the
Okay,
line and shot five over.
it the par is 36, so it's 30. I think it might be 35, 36. So it's par 71 total. I'm not totally sure on that. Great line, great line. So 6.5 or it's 5.5. Is it?
Call it 5.5, and I'm going under.
So still really good line. I played absolutely horrendously. I started par, bogey, birdie, and then it just went downhill from that. My biggest blunder it's a short par four. The airport's right behind you, so it is kind of cool. There's a really good view of like all the runways and whatnot. And my biggest blunder, I had a great drive just to like into the first cut on the right. And for some reason, I was thinking that I carry a 60. I do not. I go 50, 54, 58 are my three wedges. So I pull 50 out of my bag thinking it's a 60 because I had just enough for a full 58. So whatever, 90 yards in, 95 yards. So I was like, oh, this is perfect, slightly downhill. Pull 50, goes 20 yards past the green, double it. And I'm like, that is the biggest blunder. But after that, it went downhill. I shot a 44. So not my proudest round,
Okay.
but it's the first round of the season. You can't be too mad. I was just having fun. I was playing match play with my friend, and he did beat me. He was three up with one to play. So tough loss to start the season.
Yeah. I'll remember to check which wedges I got with me next time I play.
Oh my gosh, that was. And I said I was so mad. I'm like, I do not carry a 60 degree. Why? I do it every single hole that I would pull out my 50 degree and they'd be like, I need my 58 degree. I don't carry a 60. I don't know why. In my head, I think I carry a 50 degree. I do not. I've been like that for this is my second season with these wedges, so I know I don't carry a 60 degree. But it's outrageous. I need to get in my head fast because it's I can't be making mistakes like that again. I mean, just
That's
sailing the green when
funny.
you're 90 yards out. It's just not doing it.
Yeah, can't be mad about golf in February.
No, that's what I said. It's still fun. I was kind of comparing myself to my first round in February last year because I got to a hot start and I think I shot 34 on my first nine of the year
Wow.
last year. So that was exciting. I was hot to begin with, um, but like you said, it can't complain about it. But what about your round down with Tim Ecca? Correct.
Yes, I was down at a course called Carlisle Barracks Golf Course on the grounds of the Carlisle Army Camp. So it's a unique course. I should preface it by saying played 18 holes, par 72. Uh, the tees we played were 6,000 on the scorecard, but it had to be closer to 58. They had a lot of the par three tee boxes moved up to save
Okay.
tee boxes.
Hmm.
Flat course, wet course. What is your line, and what do you think I shot over under that?
I am going par 72. Okay. I'm going to say, I mean, decent way. You said it was in the 50s.
Yeah, right around 50.
Okay. I mean, so decent weather, not too windy, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna say you got off to a decent start. I'm gonna say 82 and a half my line.
And do you think
And
is over or under?
I think I think you shot an 82. I think you shot an 82.
Good analysis based on the information. One would think that I should have maybe included this part as well, is that the vibes were high. We were having a good time.
Okay. Are
And
they were the vibes so high that it started to negatively impact your round or positively impact your round?
no, we were
Okay.
feeling good. Golf was
Okay.
feeling good. It was sunny. We were happy to be out there. The under hit, I shot a 73, which is
Wow.
the second best uh, round of my life. But I don't want our listeners to think I'm a stick because,
I
like I said, it's probably the easiest conditions course I've ever played. I took a breakfast ball when I hit it out of bounds on two, so there's also that.
okay. That's
What matters is that I beat Tim by 2 strokes.
by
So
two, by two or
he also
three.
played really well. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I that's something I wrestle with quite a bit. Is like how easy of a course does it get to the point where that round doesn't count? You know what I mean? Like there's a course back home. It's actually the closest golf course to the house that I grew up in. Maybe the easiest golf course I've. If it's not rated, If it was, I'm going to say it's a par. It's actually par 73. I'm going to say it would be rated as 67. Okay. And one day I shot, I think, a 71 there. And I was like, there's a par six on it that's really, realistically, it's 600 yards. Like you can get to it in three. And I always
Yeah.
play as a par five. So I think I shot like a 71. I'm like, does that really count? Like, is it, I'm not going to go tell people, like, yeah, I shot a 71 because it's like for 18, I want to say it's 5,100 yards maybe. So I'm like, every par four is
That's
driving to me.
crazy.
So I'm like, does that count? At what point does it get too easy that you that you don't you don't count it as a great round?
Yeah. I think I mean, based off of Saturday's round, it's easy to say this, but I think I do enjoy, now that we're not playing in college tournaments ever, I enjoy the casual rounds, playing tees that
Mm.
are relatively easy, just because it makes it more fun.
Oh,
When you're playing a match with a friend, I want to be winning a hole with a birdie rather than
yeah,
a par beating a bogey on every hole. So it makes it more fun. You're sticking wedge shots close, so it's a good time.
yeah, absolutely. I think throughout the course of the season, you have to mix it up with some. You have to. I feel like you have to test yourself, and you also have to just have fun and score low. Like you can't if you're going and playing courses that are rated 74, 75 every round, yeah, you're going to get a lot better. But sometimes even if you're playing really tough courses, push it up, play really short tees, or go to a muni and just have fun. Like you said, go shoot those. I mean, obviously it depends how good you are, but yeah, go hit shots you're not going to hit anywhere else. Go low and have a good time. On the adverse of that, if you do play really bad, you do kind of beat yourself up. And you're like, man, I shot a 44 at a course that I should be shooting a like 38 max at, um, but it is what it is. But when you're on, it's a lot of fun because you feel like you're sticking them close. You're you know hitting shots close, making a lot of birdies. So it is fun. I think you have to have a good mix in there. But
Yeah. Yeah, well, stay
but what,
tuned for when Matt and I finally do get to rip up one
no,
golf club
I was
together.
I was so disappointed. But just to segue away from that, I do have one final thing, just to
I
keep
think this is
keep
what I was
it,
gonna ask you as well.
okay, keep the bit rolling. Tommy Fleetwood did bring out a little Riviera merch. Um, did not seem like he spent as much money in the pro shop as they were hoping. They were a little disappointed. I know that the Riviera, all the pros and all the pros and assistant pros, they were definitely looking forward to getting that money, but they will not be getting their raises because he was only wearing a couple shirts, a couple hats. Um, so yeah, disappointing week for the Riviera clubhouse.
Yeah.
he did wear a little bit though, and he did tease. He wore a Jason Day Malvin crew neck, so who knows? Maybe he'll just be stealing some clothes from all of his competitors, which I feel like is kind of. I'm sorry, Tommy. You made a lot of money in golf. You couldn't have gone and bought your own Malvin golf crew neck, but I don't know. I guess a penny saved is a penny earned. That's what they
That's
say.
right. Well, this is where we're at as a podcast. We're
Yeah,
really
we're
keeping our eye on Tommy Fleetwood's apparel.
yeah. I'm going to be really disappointed when he signs with a with a with this apparel sponsor. I really am.
Yeah.
It's going to be. We might as well shut the podcast down at that point.
Or we could give him a collar sponsor and we'll stitch it
Wow,
on
yeah,
there.
that would be huge. I think it should just be cutouts of our face, like one on each collar. Just who cares about the brand? Just
It's like the
having our
devil on
face
his
on.
shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope he doesn't. I like seeing the club merch. Like I said before, I want to see some logos of courses that he's been to. You know,
Yeah.
that's personally what I want to see. I like seeing logos on. I like seeing polos from courses that you don't see a lot. So We'll see. I'll definitely
We'll see.
be chiming in later in the season too. So, but
Yeah.
that's a great way to leave it off. The most important part of the podcast being last. So
Yeah.
it's been great to be back. Another great episode, another really fun episode. Can't wait to be back and record another episode later this week. Ahead of the Cognizant Classic. But for now, thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you next time. And yeah, have a great week.
Yeah. Thank you guys. See ya.